Hi, friends. This is your pal, Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about American politics, and we are going to talk about Kendrick Lamar's halftime show. So, Josh Johnson, so I skipped this. I didn't even watch it. I don't consider Kendrick Lamar a real rapper, but Josh Johnson came in and was like, no, you missed something, man. And he said that what this halftime show really meant was that Kendrick Lamar was declaring that Caucasian culture really can't tell African American culture that they're being too loud, too reckless, and too ghetto. And he said that virtually every single black person in America has felt this, has felt like somebody said to them, you're being too loud, too reckless, too ghetto. All right, so I want to talk about this, but I want to talk about it from the perspective of cultural appropriation versus cultural adoption. All right. So let me be super clear. I'm interested in this because I would like to be too loud, too reckless, too ghetto. Right. I feel constantly that I'm constrained from saying what I want to say, doing what I want to do. Right. And I understand this too loud and I understand this too reckless. I don't understand too ghetto. Why don't I understand ghetto? Because I've never been in a ghetto. I have ridden through a ghetto on my bicycle when I'm on a Philadelphia bicycle trip. I do that, 10 times a year. Just, go on the weekends and just throw it down and really just ride all around and enjoy Philadelphia, right, on my bicycle. And I have ridden through ghettos in Philadelphia. No two ways about it. Now it is interesting because, all right, Kensington, whew, man, that's a rough place. That is a rough place. Yeah, I'm not saying it's a ghetto, but I'm saying they got significant problems. They're struggling. They are struggling, right? So you have all this happening, right? And what's really fascinating is I was really fascinated by what Josh Johnson said about Kendrick Lamar. And he was saying, hey, if you're African American, you want to be too loud, too reckless, too ghetto, but Caucasian culture is suppressing that and saying you guys need to obey, right? And I love this concept because I'm in the same boat. I want to be too loud and too reckless. I would also like to be ghetto, but I would have to know what ghetto means first. I grew up in the very nice suburbs of Philadelphia, and I've literally never wanted for a roof over my head or a meal, even a meal. I've never been hungry. I've never slept in the rain. I don't know. I don't know what a ghetto is. I certainly never lived in one, right? But this idea of being too loud, too reckless, and I will say I would like to be too ghetto. I don't know what it means, but Josh Johnson is fascinated by it, and Josh Johnson is a personal hero, so I would like that, right? So then now I'm in this situation where I'm like, wait a second, all right? You're saying that they want to be too loud, too reckless, too ghetto. First of all, Josh Johnson is connecting this to African American culture, right? Now that's risky, right? Because certainly not all, like, no group is all of one thing, right? There's, groups have, maybe there are some African Americans who are too loud, too reckless, too ghetto, right? But it certainly doesn't mean that all of them are. And and basically, I'm very confident. Actually, I have met some African Americans who are incredibly collected, right? Like, not too loud, not too reckless, and not too ghetto. In fact, have far more money, far more culture, far more intellect, far more emotional resonance than me, right? But he's saying that this does attach to some percentage of African Americans. What I think is interesting is I don't know if it's African American at all, right? Like, and the reason why is I'd like to sign up. He's saying, hey, we want the space to be our culture, right? So at this point, I'm aware of what cultural appropriation is, and we're not supposed to do it, right? Actually, that's a good question. So now that we're in the American King Donald Trump era, it seems like language has been freed up a lot, and we can start to have conversations that we weren't allowed to have before. So here's my question. Were we told that cultural appropriation was wrong, but it wasn't? That if we're appropriating someone else's culture, we're doing an homage to them? I think that's a very legitimate question. I think that's a very real and legitimate question that we were told for a long time, and we can have this conversation now because that's where we are in this new Donald Trump era. People are like, oh, I don't have to make every single word that comes out of my mouth woke, right? I can even reject woke, and very many people are. People are like, I'm never going to speak another politically correct sentence ever again. Now I think that's a good thing. I think that's a good thing that we're starting to embrace the ability to have real conversations again and to at least use language. So I'm not willing to say that cultural appropriation is right, but I am willing to say, hey, that's a legitimate question. Can we all agree that cultural appropriation is not theft, but homage and respect? Right? Because I would like to be too loud, too reckless, too ghetto, right? Why should that be an African American thing? That should be for anybody who wants it. You know what I mean? And so I'm starting the conversation here, right? Are we all allowed to say, hey, I want to be too loud, too reckless, too ghetto, and start to go down that road, right? Like, and say, yes, this may be cultural appropriation, but it's not theft, it's homage and respect. Right, and I think we may be there now. I'm willing to understand and to accept if I'm wrong, and so that is my question to you: are we all at this point allowed to at least request to be too loud, too reckless, too ghetto? Are we all allowed to say, hey, I would like to do some cultural appropriation? This is not meant as theft. This is meant truly as homage and respect. I think it's a question really worth putting out there. Every single word you just heard is my humble opinion. The important part is when I get to hear your humble opinion. When you get in the comments and send your traffic, please consider liking and subscribing and have a fetch millennium.